Hello, everyone. Yeah, so we have Nafiseh, Haidah, and we can go anyway. So just yeah. So just my name is Beulah Gana, and I'm the director of the Saskatchewan Association of Immigrant Settlement and Integration Agencies, SAISHA for short. And I'm so honored to be moderating this session because this is very much dear to my heart. Since morning, we've been talking about indigenous art, culture, and Canadian art. I've just been wondering, what are the newcomers? How is their culture and art being integrated? What is the policy? What is the governance? We are coming with our culture, we are coming with our art. So how is that all fitting into the discussion? We are talking about exporting art. Which one are you exporting? How are we exporting it? Because some of this art belong to other countries as well. So how do you navigate? How do you negotiate all that? Where is the governance? So those are the kinds of questions that I have in mind, and I want to put them up front in the beginning, so that you, as you are listening to the discussion, you are thinking about it, and we can have some discussion around that after they're done. So in keeping with the afternoon tradition, you have the bios in the in your program, so you read about them. They are all accomplished in their own right. And so we start with Nafiseh.
My name is Nafiseh Zamani, and I'm working as the youth manager and the coordinator of the Saskatoon Multilingual Schools and Performing Art in Saskatchewan Intercultural Association. It's my pleasure to be here today, and thanks, Dr. Findlay, for inviting me and be part of this great conversation. I was a newcomer to Canada and Saskatoon 11 years ago, and similar to other newcomers, I face the same challenges and barriers such as language, employment, cultural shock, lack of knowledge about the available resources, which left me in the dark side, and I wasn't able to be involved in the community as much as I was in my home country. So I needed help realizing my strengths and potential, using my potential to get connected to the community again. And that's the role of settlement agencies or cultural communities. They help newcomer to get involved in the community and be seen, be heard. So I got that power through Saskatchewan Intercultural Association, and that's where I ended up working to pursue my goal to help newcomers that they have the same challenges as I had 11 years ago, to get them connected to community, to help them to retain their culture. So our organization is focusing in two factors in protection and promotion of diversity of cultural expression. One is cultural retention, and the other one is cross-cultural education. So in terms of cultural retention, we heard this morning again and again that language is the main element of the culture. So SIA has been the umbrella of for the heritage language in Saskatoon for 30 years. And we provide partnership with SaskCulture, Saskatchewan Organization for Heritage Language, and Saskatoon Public School to provide the opportunity for all 34 different cultural communities in Saskatoon to promote and retain their language and culture in Saskatoon. So they are teaching their second generation kids their culture and their language, and they're transmitting that to their kids, because the kids have that as part of their identity. But unfortunately, recently, it seems that this part of cultural expression is not the funding priority for our provincial government. So they're taking back their support that they've been supporting for 30 years. So not only the 34 heritage language in Saskatoon, but also 60 or more than 60 cultural communities around the province will not have the support of provincial government anymore for retaining and promoting their culture and language at all. So I have to move on. This is a big discussion that is been going around, and there is petition that is going around. But I have to move on the other programs that SI is offering in terms of protection and promotion of cultural expression. Through SIA Performing Art Group, community organization and members are exposed to different cultural performances, which gives more visibility to the cultural communities that are in Saskatoon. As it is mentioned in UNESCO 2005 convention, education plays a fundamental role in protection and promotion of diversity of the cultural expression. So we need to introduce the main element of the other culture to people, especially the young generation. So we're offering active culture program to introduce other cultures, especially indigenous culture, to elementary kids, students in a shape of fun activity, so they gain enough knowledge and understanding to change their lifestyle, and develop their friendship network. Global Movement is also another program that SI is offering in terms of cross-cultural understanding education. We are offering it to elementary school kids. So we believe that the young age generation education is very important if we are thinking about cultural expression. To foster a strong relationship between newcomers and First Nation, SI is offering the LIGHT program, which is Learning Interculturalism Through Employment, which provides employment skill training through and as well as significant intercultural learning component designed to encourage relationship building and understanding between the newcomer and indigenous participant youth. So based on my experience and observation, I totally believe that the cross-cultural education plays a key role to live in a peaceful world. I believe that if we start the education in the young age, we will develop a safe atmosphere for cultural expression. So we increase the cultural sensitivity among the young generation, and so we will develop and provide the opportunity for a positive future for them. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Am I on? Okay. Sorry I missed the last panel. I had to attend some urgent situation with one of my files. I would like to start with very personal situation. My first introduction to personal expression in Canada was when I was at the hospital giving birth to my first child. I was here just 2 months, didn't speak any English. And the nurse, through a translation, told me that in Canada, we keep very quiet giving birth. So, but delivery was very fast, so I didn't really digest the concept. So that was my first introduction to really we need to be polite, and we really don't express that much. After that, I ended up going to a drama department, and that was very challenging too, because we had to learn all the difficult Shakespeare plays and extremely, I don't know why I did that, honestly, because I didn't even speak that much English, but that was one of my dreams, to become an actor, and I didn't become one. So anyway, but I was very lucky that I had Raymond Montelberry was an instructor, and he allowed me to express myself in my own language. By the end of the term, I was doing all my dialogues in Farsi. It was really good, but that was only one class. I experienced a lot of exclusion in the drama department, very, very difficult times. Then I thought, okay, I really want to be creative, so I moved to fine arts department, assuming that would be more inclusive. I was wrong. For my BFA exhibition, I was told that there were some students got together and they wanted to actually make sure that I don't have my show. So then decided, okay, just it's time to move on. I married an artist, so I left the art world behind to him and moved on. But meanwhile, while I was facing all those challenges, I was involved outside of the departments, the institution. I did have, believe it or not, my dance group, and I started Persian school with another colleague, which I really truly believe the language is a main essence of our identity, and it's extremely disappointing to see that the provincial government is cutting off only like the budget that is $200,000, which serves 2,500 students and 200 volunteers in all across Saskatchewan. Like this is, everybody is doing it voluntarily. So it's like this $200,000 just pays for very minimal materials or some very basic expenses. So with the language school, it's kind of, I put a lot of my heart in it, and I have a lot of good memories of young kids going to school after their week of English learning and trying to learn Farsi. And I end up, because my kids grow up, so then they don't want to go, we pass them to somebody else. I think language is extremely important because I end up taking my daughter, I came back Friday to Iran, and when I came back, she told me, now mom, that I learned Farsi much more, and I see you with other Farsi people completely speaking all the time your own language. I think I know you better. I think I understand you better. And I think language is extremely important to maintain wherever you are. Doesn't matter. But if the official language here is only French and English, I think we have to work hard to preserve other languages as well. So that's a little bit of a, I hope it wasn't 5 minutes, but I'll be quick. I think that was, it's not really about me. It wasn't, how do you turn it on? I turn it off? Okay. Okay, it's okay. But just so I'm an example of, I thought listening to the whole presentation today, I think this is very important to see where we are. And if you look at the graphics, you'll see by year 2030, almost 100% of population growth is by immigration. So we really can't be dismissed. We're here. Everybody here, with exception of First Nation Métis people, or Aboriginal people, are immigrants. Now it just seems the dialogue is just shifting, like, you know, just in two, rather than making it more inclusive and acknowledging who we are right now. Maybe this room not necessarily representing the whole Canada, but definitely in the plane that I was coming from United Arab Emirates to Vancouver, majority were colored people, majority were from different ethnic groups. So I would like to see some more collaboration, some more acknowledgement, and some more inclusion in all different levels, rather than excluding them or thinking that we have to assimilate or we have to become quiet Canadians. So this is where we are. But today here, I wear so many different hats, but right now I'm as a co-chair of Saskatoon Open Door Society. As it says in my little bio there, really I do believe that we need to collaborate, we need to create bridges between community, especially for me with the First Nation and Métis people. And we have taken initiatives to engage with the First Nation and Métis community here in all different levels. For me personally, I twisted Lori Blondo's arm years ago, so she sat on the board, open door board, but she was too busy. She couldn't commit too long, but thankfully she's expressed some interest that hopefully I'll twist her arm again and she will come and sit on the board again. So we had Dana sitting on the board for a few years. So it's really important for us, all of us, to be engaged in two ways. Yes, I heard in the other panel that I think the expectation is that newcomers are to come to First Nation and Métis people, but I do believe that you have to take initiative, you have to take ownership, you have to invite us. So we learn about you through you rather than through a third party, to try to teach our kids, try to teach us how to and who you are. And I would respectfully disagree with the comments that most immigrants don't know about First Nation culture. It's not correct. Actually, a lot of us do know, and with some of the new initiatives that the government has taken, there are a lot of information session provided too. So we need to work on that, and we need to build on that, what we have already. So as part of Open Door, I just quickly say we have a number of different programs, but one of the most important one is the community. This one is the cultural bridging, which I don't go into details of it. It's somewhat similar to what, or kind of not necessarily overlap. We try to complement each other with our sister organizations, so we don't duplicate the same program, but we kind of try to fill gaps what the other program doesn't have. But we do a lot of, which we're hoping that it will change rather than us going always to different communities and trying to talk about who we are and who, if the set of newcomers are coming to educate the mainstream, we're hoping that it would be two ways. So this is part of the programs that Saskatoon Open Door is undertaken. We have different collaboration with through the youth program that is specifically geared toward building connection between youth. And I think that's the most important. Kids are not racist. Kids are open to learn from each other and learn from other cultures. And so if you start from young age and try to teach them, there's less likely that people will become as racist as we see them when they're older. So the youth program is extremely popular. It started very small, and now it's like schools, they have to kind of be in a waiting time for different seminars that is all trained by, like, kids are teaching kids. It's not necessary, and it's not just immigrant kids and the newcomers. It's a combination of mainstream kids and newcomers and First Nations and Métis people. So these are some of the programs that Open Door has. I thought we will have some of the images here so you will see the diversity of that, how it is. It's really hands-on program. People talk to each other, learn about each other. It's not just one way. I learn about your culture, you learn about my culture directly through storytelling, through workshop, and at the end, they have different programs that they will do, either poetry, or they call it slam poetry, or making a video, and then continue. So it's like an evolving programs that it's happening all the time. So this is my presentation. I hope there will be some conversation and discussion in relation between who we are and where we go from here. Thank you.
Ok. Bonjour tout le monde. Je m'appelle Chedly Belkhodja. Je suis professeur à l'université Concordia. So I'm a professor at Concordia University School of Community and Public Affairs. I'm actually new in Quebec. I was before that I was in New Brunswick. I was a professor at l'Université de Moncton for 20 years. I grew up in Moncton. I'm Tunisian, half French. My mother's from France. And I I feel also as an Acadian. So I think an individual can have many culture. We have to remember this too. So we can be mixed in different cultures, and they can appear at different moments. Just a little story. I was in Montreal. When I arrived in Montreal, my Arabic culture came back in my face, not because I was in a store with my son, and it was July, it was during Ramadan, and my son, who's 6, wanted to get an ice cream, so I said, pas de problème. And we went to this little store, and the guy was probably from Morocco or Algeria, and he told me, well, soon your son will do Ramadan like you. And I was like, well, I just want to buy an ice cream. I don't want to get in a, maybe I'm not doing Ramadan. I felt like it played, and it made me realize how much culture, when you move around and when you face different situation, well, you have to react. And so I would speak, maybe I think you need to keep in the picture the perspective of second generation also Canadian people who were maybe who came to the country at a very young age. Their culture will change too, but this is one element very important for me. So I just have maybe three main points here when I think of policies around immigration and diversity and cultures. And it's things that were already said during the day, but I think we need to find a balance between the differences of culture and the common ground. We need to find that balance. It's not easy because we know that when we speak of culture, sometimes we go back to authenticity, defending our turf, defending our ground. But to be able to find that common ground, I think, is important. Policies should be, we respect differences in Canada. We have multiculturalism, but we need to engage with all these differences also. We need to go beyond the branding factor also, because I think we tend to brand culture. I come from a university that brands itself as, the most diverse university, the most open to diversity, to what Montreal is all about, diversity. But I do work on international students, for example, and I look at what they live in a city, what they have to go through as immigrants, and I think it's a bit different from the whole discourse on diversity and culture. So first, we need to recognize the power relation. We discussed this, and I think it plays out very well in the province. We heard about minority rights this morning, and coming from New Brunswick, I'm very familiar with this also. So the whole issue of majority-minority, how does immigration and integration comes in the picture. When we think of culture, we tend to think that some communities will have more access to resources than other communities. So we need to ask and it was said also, who is part of the community? That is key, I think. And when we think of immigration, that question comes to the front also. We tend to select sometimes. Provinces will select immigrants. They will go in certain countries. We have desirable migrants, and we have the other migrants that, well, we need them, but they're invisible. Temporary foreign workers, caregivers. We have policies that are very hard on certain categories. We roll the red carpet to the desirable migrants. So we need to be aware of this. And we know that it plays out differently across the country, but it plays out in the West a lot with temporary foreign workers. We saw this in certain provinces. So secondly, I think we need to share a space for our different cultures. And I think it was said also, I tend to think that it needs to be a multi-level approach. It's a bottom-up approach, and policies should have, they should be open to innovation, to giving resources to organizations that they can try new things, they can innovate. I think you said this. In Quebec, I was in Rimouski doing interviews and someone was telling me they're cutting our funds for intercultural programming. So we're getting funds only for the number of immigrants we're receiving, but we're not getting that other big envelope that was very useful for connecting. Oh no, we're cutting this, so it's not helping. So rapprochement, conviviality, all these things are important. I think we can, I mean, I'm not going to go further here, but we need to engage. I think when we speak of immigration in Canada, we know we need to engage in discussions that are sometimes difficult with First Nations, with Aboriginal communities in Nova Scotia, for example, African Nova Scotians. That was an interesting debate. I mean, when the province talks about immigration, poop, you have another group saying, hey, we've been here before, 400 years. Don't forget us. So there's a tension. And how do we deal with this? And finally, I think when we were talking about culture, we need to recognize the importance of culture in immigration policy. We need to make room for newcomers in the fabric of the Canadian culture. And that's a big challenge also. So we need to make room for artists coming from these communities. We need to have more, we need to make room also for looking at immigration not only as an economic issue, thinking that immigrants will integrate, will consume the Canadian model, but themselves, there will not be creators in a way. So I think it's very important that immigrants also be part of the creation, and not only in the in the multicultural exotic, but in crisscrossing, in creating art and being part of pushing the limits or the and I think sometimes we don't see immigrants that way. We see them as newcomers, not maybe interested by this side of what we're discussing here today, but more as consumers. I will stop here. I think I had time to say my 3 points. Thank you.
Thank you, Nafiseh, Chedly, and Haidah. Any questions from the floor?
Well, I just want to say my name is Alejandro, and I just want to say thank you for the courage that you have to speak honestly about the issues that we all face. I'm an immigrant, a newcomer, and also a bureaucrat that work in municipalities and experience some of these challenges as I work with policies. So it's great that you have the courage to just speak up to that, and I just want to encourage you to keep doing it.
Hi, thank you for your passionate panel. Strong theme of education and especially working with youth in this. I was wondering if you could provide, in your ideal world, in your recommendations, some sort of change to school curriculum, something added that is mandatory, that is actually written into the curriculum. Have you thought at all about what that might look like, what sorts of subjects it might fit into, how it might be delivered?
I'm not expertise in that section, but sorry. Based on my experience as being a newcomer and being part of a kind of religious cultural community, what I want to say is that like my daughter would be free to express her cultural expression. I mean. She wouldn't be kind of being bullied. I wouldn't say bullied, but like even be like be due to the lack of knowledge among her friends. She's being asked why your mom is wearing hijab, or like why you're practicing your religious thing. I mean, something I don't say that it has to be mandatory into curriculum, but more work onto that area that kids have. More knowledge in that area that they don't, at least if they don't know about it, they don't question it or don't not make fun of it, but teenage, they're used to ask questions in a way that maybe bothers each other. So I would like to see a word that my kids can practice their religious and be part of any kids, be part of any color or whatever, and they don't be questioned by their friends. I know that their work has been done in education system, but to be honest, 3 times I had to talk to the teacher of my daughter and remind her to kind of have a conversation in my daughter's class and remind the kids that they don't, at least if they don't know anything about another culture, they don't question or be more nice to it about it. So that's my passion, and that's why I'm working in that area and doing it kind of not my culture, but other culture. At least I see the kids from other culture, they don't face the problem that my daughter is facing now. But maybe Mr. Amirzadeh has more things to do about it.
I think I would say that these are the issues probably would be more in smaller centers. One of our friends moved from Saskatoon to Vancouver, and he said that when he was in school, came home the second day, says, "Mom, I was in the yard and somebody called my name. I went to school, there were 4 other ones there," to the principal's office. So I think like everything is changing now. In Saskatoon, even it's changing. 27 years ago, when I came at university, like people would know who I am because I was really, really visible minority. I am not anymore, right? So I still am, but if you're walking in the tunnel, nobody will say we saw Haidah walking by because there are 100 other Haidahs there too. So I think things are changing, whether we like it or not, and I think it comes down to our government's leadership. Everything is based on the leadership. If government takes initiative to welcome and to present the newcomers in a very positive light, everybody is going to take that lead. If our government is taking the lead that is kind of, with everything is suspicious and negative, then that's slowly it will influence the common people too. So I think things are changing. School is changing. They're not the same anymore. In a positive way, hopefully.
I just wanted to maybe ask if you guys could expand on one thing, and it's a comment that someone made about the fact that there's differences and commonalities, and sometimes focusing in on those commonalities is that bond. Having worked in the sort of newcomer immigration area for most of my career, I always say people got to know each other in the classroom, wherever they were, as people, as family, as friends, and they shared the same problems. And probably in the workplace is one of the best connections because they can all complain about their boss. Doesn't matter what culture you're from, you can sort of bond around one thing. But how do you find that balance between celebrating cultures, expressing the fact that there are differences, but yet stressing those commonalities? Everyone.
Oh, it's a
Chedly,
a challenging. I think it's quite. I think we need to. The way you explain it, I think it's interesting to sometimes go beyond the differences and find the commonality of a situation. I'm just giving you one example. I'm doing this research. I'm very interested by immigration outside the major cities, so smaller cities, places of less diversity, more homogeneous. But I've started this research on Muslim burial ritual and the whole issue of aging immigrants and the question of returning home or burial in Canada. And I've started this very slowly, but looking at cities such as Moncton, Halifax, London, Ontario, Sherbrooke, and I was struck by one moment where we've engaged in a conversation in a funeral home in Moncton, and that person said, "Well, when we have the situation, we go beyond the differences. I don't know if we engage in a conversation that moves us, not making judgment on Islamic way of cleaning a body compared to maybe another way, this way. No, we go beyond. So I think sometimes schools are also an interesting space where we can build on finding a common ground. Sports, I think we can see different places like this. But it's true that we're stuck sometimes also in the media perception, construction of sometimes, I mean, schools will call, sometimes in smaller cities will say, we need to discuss what happened, I remember post-11, it was like the crisis. It was a crisis, so we need to discuss religion or Islam or differences. But we need to discuss differences not in always that sort of context also.
So,
I don't know if we have time.
Okay, the last two.
I won't ask any questions. I just want to, Nafiseh was mentioning that because of the cut for Heritage Language School funding, there is a petition. I just wanted to say I happen to have one with me today. So if you'd like to sign it, come see me on the break, or I can email you a link to it. But you can't sign it electronically, unfortunately. So if you're interested, then, and I won't make any, I could comment lots, but I won't.
I also appreciated your honesty. And as an immigrant myself, when I came to Canada, and being French, the question people would ask me would be, do you come from France? Because, they could hear that I didn't have a Quebecois accent. And I would say yes. And they would say, oh, the Parisian accent is so beautiful. And I would say, but in fact, I'm from the south of France. And I come from a time when, the people from the south hated the people from Paris because they got all the money and the funds, So the same way, immigrants sometimes are perceived, in a certain way, negative way, and then the opposite, I was speaking about the French people. But we have the beautiful, as you said, we have on one hand the beautiful discourse about diversity. And then, we have, the reality, how the immigrants, sometimes are received in Canada. So for instance, on campus, we have those beautiful discourses, and then, when you go to the residence, on campus, and then you are shocked to see that if you go to Sigur-Wheeler, for instance, that the rental conditions are not good at all. And I speak, all the time with my graduate students or international students, and sometimes I visit them, and there is no intercom system, the door don't have a buzz, and it's terrible. So I think that something needs to be done on campus about this. And I know that, actually, the university is, actually, using, renting system from outside the campus. But I think the university should step in, and make sure that, our international students who actually are paying much more than our Canadian students, 3 times more, and they are not actually second-grade, citizens because they have to pay so much. So this was a comment. Thank you.
We have the last one.
Echoing your original or first opening statement, representation. What identity, how to represent and decide on what is represented to ourselves and to the outside world, and not to lose competence and professionalism or quality of aesthetics. I think if there's a strong signal coming from Ottawa these days, it's the variety, diversity, and balance in cabinet, but also the strong sort of professionalism and qualities, professional individual qualities of these persons. So I think that's a subject for further discussion as we are to discuss content for our own, ourselves and our children.
Thank you very much. And on that note, I will thank you all for Nafiseh, Chedly, and Haidah for accepting to do this presentation. And again, I will say that as you move to the next stage, please think about the content, the role of newcomers, and how they are included in the whole process of exporting culture or importing culture, whichever way. Thank you.